Today on the channel, we're going to be looking at Nemesis Lockdown and whether you should back it. Coming right up. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Bryan and you are watching Game Brigade, and on this channel we do reviews, previews, and playthroughs of your favorite games. So if you're new here, consider subscribing. So today we wanted to dive in onto the Nemesis Lockdown Kickstarter that just hit today, which is an expansion for Nemesis. If you are new to Kickstarters, this video is for you because we're going to break down the game, the components, the playability, and whether or not this is a good value for you going forward as a Kickstarter. So let's take a quick dive here and check out this game. So this is the first day that this game has hit the Kickstarter servers, and in fact it broke the servers. And we're going to sidetrack before we dive too far in here and check out this update, because I think it's kind of funny that the first update, the developers kind of refer to this about them breaking down the servers, and what they did is they actually included 3 new special cards specifically referencing burning the servers down. I think that is a really cool aspect to the game. You don't see that very often when a Kickstarter production company makes light of a pretty serious situation. You know, people were not able to back their game because the servers were down, but they took it on the sleeve and said, you know what, we're gonna include some game mechanics and cards, and we'll play test them later to make sure they're good. But at least there's gonna be a little reference to that in the main game. So let's zoom back here real quick and check out what this game is. So Awaken Realms, this is already at 2.7 million on day 1. We have nearly 18,000 backers at 17,668 with 20 days to go. We're going to zoom here to the campaign page, and this is created by Awaken Realms. Now, personally, I don't own any Awaken Realm games. I feel like I have missed out on the ship. Every time their Kickstarters come out, I'm at a point where I'm like, I got a lot of games on the way. I'm not sure if this is one I want to back. And I feel like every time I do, I've regretted it because the games have always been very good. So I've actually been looking for this game for quite a while. Nemesis, the first one. Ever since I heard about it, I reached out to my local store and talked to them and see if there was any options that we can pick it up from them. But when I heard about the Kickstarter coming out, I knew it was going to be a great opportunity for me to take a look at the game and see if it was truly for me. So let's dive in. What is Nemesis? Well, this is actually Nemesis Lockdown, and it is an individual game that does not require the core game Nemesis to play. So this is called a standalone game. If you're someone who's on a budget, or if you are unsure if you want to go all in, I think buying Nemesis Lockdown by itself is fine. The idea of the game in a whole is that you are a group of survivors on a ship. We'll talk about Nemesis, and then we'll talk about the differences. The core idea of Nemesis is that you were a group of people on a ship that was traveling somewhere. Something causes the ship to malfunction. Things are no longer working right, and you awake from cryosleep, and you find that one of your crew members is dead. They have been ripped from their cryo chamber, their bodies thrown to the corner, and you need to figure out what's going on. And you hear things moving around the ship that should not be moving because the rest of your crew are all around you. Now, this game implements parts of a cooperative experience because you're all trying to survive. And you have a single enemy that you're all against, the aliens. But everyone also has a personal objective, and this kind of comes into that semi-cooperative aspect. Everyone will have a personal goal, something that them as a character wants to complete, and you have a corporate goal, which is something that your bosses back at home are wanting you to complete, and that might be bring back an egg, or be the only survivor, or ensure that a specific player doesn't make it to the end. So the aspect of, is this for you or if this is for your play group, is I would ask myself first before I back this game, will my group play this as a cooperative game? Will we play this as a semi-cooperative game? And if we do play as a semi-cooperative game, will it work for us? Because a lot of people don't like being eliminated by a player. There are aspects of this game where you could lock someone in a room by shutting the power off, or locking them in an elevator by turning the power off. And then you could screw their entire play up. The aspect of making it worse for someone can be a very big turnoff for certain players. So as you're looking at this Kickstarter, know that the base play game can have elements of backstab. I think it's a really cool element. I think it's a really thematic element, because a lot of people, when you're fighting for your life, will kind of think of themselves first. But you can play this as a fully cooperative game. So Nemesis Lockdown, the actual game that we're reviewing here, is instead of being on a ship, you're actually on a surface station. The flavor text talks about how you are a guard or a member of the crew, and there is a delivery happening, and it's not a normal type of delivery. Well, obviously something goes bad. They were bringing some sort of xenomorph onto the station, and things went foobar. And so you are trying to get out. And the station on this one, comparatively to the ship, is going to be a multi-level. So you're going to have the ground level, and then you're going to have like a sub-level 1 and a sub-level 2. And those sub-levels will have different rooms, different components, different things that you have to do to complete your objectives, or to find things. You might have to return the reactor on, but the reactor's on sub-level 2. But there might be a nest in the sub-reactor. So there's a lot of things going on with the game. So let's talk about the expansions. So the game is going to have Nemesis Lockdown. The way they've formulated this game and created it is that the expansions and the components from the first game, Nemesis, are fully transferable to Nemesis Lockdown. So what that means is, if you have Nemesis and you buy Lockdown, your components and your playability, you can transfer that to the Lockdown game system, which means you could play with the original aliens or the original characters on the new station. But if you're a player that just wants Lockdown, you could actually buy just like the expansion components from the first game, and bring those in. So we're going to talk about those expansions real quick, because some of them are kind of hits and misses. So here we have the Aftermath expansion and the Void Seekers expansion. The Aftermath expansion brings in a lot of, we can actually scroll further down. It actually has a better picture here. So the Aftermath expansion brings in playable characters, as well as a shuttle component. And the Void Seekers expansion is a new alien race that focuses on monsters that are telekinesis, telepathic. They basically are messing with the psychology of the players and wanting to convince them to do things, and they're usually not good things. And the noise mechanic is replaced by a whispers mechanic, because the crew start hearing whispers and you're not sure what you're hearing. And they have different levels of aliens. And that's what you can see here with the Despoiler, the Stalker, the Lurkers. And there comes down to a final boss. And in this, they talk about how the final boss might not even be a real being, and it could be a manifestation of the player's imaginations, and the difficulty level in beating that. The next expansion that I wanted to kind of take a look at here is one that is a standalone expansion, fairly expensive. The Karna Morph, it's listed at $45. And this one is a divisive game. It's not as well received. So if I was a person that was looking at saving some money, this one might potentially be one that you could get away with not getting. But if you're a completionist, you're obviously going to have to get it. I love the look of these minis. This looks extremely like Dead Space. Like, this is Dead Space. And what this expansion is these monsters, these aliens, they're going to have like little lurker things, and they're going to take a little nibble or a bite of a human, of one of the players, and they're going to scurry off and run away. And they're going to take that DNA and they're going to transform into a shambler, and that's what these are down here. They're going to transform into these shamblers. And at some point, or no, these metagorgers. These metagorgers will transform into shamblers, and then they'll turn into these flesh beasts. And if you haven't dealt with them, I assume they will turn into this butcher. I have not played this game. I've just looked into it relatively deeply, and so I believe that's a transitional pace. Now, from what I gather, these aliens of this expansion will multiply pretty quickly. But from reviews, I've heard that if the players do certain things, the expansion can kind of fall flat on its face. And it might be things that you're not like you're playing the game wrong. You could play the game completely right. Just you did things in a certain order that the expansion wasn't really expecting you to do. And it doesn't allow the aliens to multiply or grow in a manner that does anything. And so I've heard that there are very flat or boring aspects of the Karna Morph's expansion. So if you're someone who is on the cusp of, I'm not quite sure if this is an expansion for me, I could understand completely as to why you would not back that one. So scrolling, let's come back to me real quick. Scrolling down, we're going to check out some of the other components here. So in this, you're also going to have a couple of other add-ons that you can buy. We have the Untold Stories 1 and 2. These are comic book expansions. These are for like a campaign-like experience in the game, and it uses a comic book to kind of explain the story and how to set up the scenario. I think it's really unique. I've not played anything like this before, so I'm excited to try it out myself. And I don't know if they're any good, really. So this would be a shot in the dark. The cost at $8 is not too bad. And the final add-in that we have available, well, not the final, actually, the next couple of ones, we have some playmats. The playmats come in at $25 a piece. The Nemesis playmat is listed as double-sided because there are two different configurations of the ship. Well, the Lockdown mat is not listed as double-sided currently. I don't believe this will stay that way. I bet you they're going to come out with a secondary expansion site, because this is really kind of stinky to have a $25 playmat and not have it be double-sided for an alternative layout configuration. I definitely can understand the cost of not wanting to pay $25 for this playmat if you're only getting a single side. The Sun Drop is an exclusive Kickstarter only. It usually means a little bit better minis, or sometimes a painted feature on the mini. These are not listed right now, so I have no idea what the costs are going to be. You're going to have to check for this if this is something you're going to want. The final kind of expansions here that we have available is the Terrain expansion. This is completely cosmetic and it's $30. It's relatively high, but it adds a lot of flavor to your board game. You have eggs, doors, dead bodies, and an escape pod. The last two expansions here is we have King's Cosmetic expansion. Again, it's a cosmetic. This doesn't add anything to the game, but they are larger aliens of the original aliens. So you have the Void Seeker, the Intruder is the original alien, and you have Karna Morph Kings. And then the final expansion that's also cosmetic is Cats, because cats. It's just an expansion that has 4 miniatures. The Cataronaut is like the survivor, and then you have Catamorph, Cat Intruder, and Void Cat. I'll be honest, I would probably buy this just for the unique little knickknacks that I can put on my walls or on my decorative places. So that's all the available expansions available for Nemesis. So let's kind of break down now the pledge levels and talk about what you're getting. So Nemesis Lockdown, again, is the actual Kickstarter you're backing. You're not backing Nemesis, you're backing Nemesis Lockdown. And originally we were told we were not going to be able to get Nemesis, but they've actually changed that, and we'll get that a little further down. So for $118, we're talking in American dollars here, you'll be getting the Nemesis Lockdown as well as all the stretch goals. The stretch goals, real quick, I'll add in on that for a brief second. The stretch goals are not going to be based on the amount of money that they've gotten. A lot of times companies will have them be funding level based, and you just have to kind of grind through the funding levels. I sometimes think that those are fake, but I'm not quite sure on stretch goals on how real or how fake they are. This one is a released timed, like a daily stretch goal, or maybe every other day they're going to be releasing stretch goals. They're not basing it on the funding, and there's a reason for that. And let me actually skip from the previous scene that we were on and show you what I like about their current stretch goals. So if we go here, we're in the updates. We've already seen some of the stuff, but they're talking about stretch goals here. So this is the first stretch goal that got announced, a new character pack, the Xenobiologist, which is great. You can see some of the sculpts here and get an idea of kind of this character's likes. And we also have some plastic door tokens. But what I was talking about, what I liked, is that for these stretch goals, they're going to be having community votes on their Facebook page for the direction of the game. Where do we want to take the game? What new alien races do we want to include? What kind of missions or danger tokens do we want to include? So here's a perfect example. The first update talks about the vote for the new alien race, and they have Slim, Maw, and Claw. Now these are not the final names of these races. These are just easy names for you to pick in your voting. So you would say, well, I like Claw, and I like Tough, and I like Bat, and then those are what you vote for. And then they're just going to take whoever voted, what is the highest vote for each category, and kind of customize the game to the community. And if you want some additional drawings, here's some more sketch artists. These, of course, are not final. These are just rough ideas of the kind of direction they want to take those aliens. But what I love about this is that we are getting to be able to change the direction of this game. I think that's really cool, and it really impacts someone who backs early in this game to be able to have kind of an impact on that. So let's go back real quick and talk about the stretch. So for $118, you can get the Nemesis Lockdown base game. But they are actually changing this. We're going to scroll a little bit. I know I hate doing the scrolling, but we're going to do it. They have a new one here, the core box bundle. So they are now allowing us to get Nemesis. Now, as if I mentioned earlier, I believe, the Nemesis game was not supposed to be part of this Kickstarter. It was supposed to be only Nemesis Lockdown, and I was incredibly disappointed when I heard that I was not going to be able to get Nemesis, the original game, with this Kickstarter. And I believe it's because of the rights of the game now. But from what I hear, this game is available, but in English only. They were given rights, I believe, through Asmodee to release this on the Kickstarter in English only. So I'm very stoked about that. So the core box includes, for $130, includes the Nemesis core box, the Aftermath expansion, and the Void Seekers expansion. So if you decide to just go in on the core box, this is the little bundle you're going to get. And they kind of talk about what you're going to get in terms of players, the intruders, and all those components. Now, some people might want to go all in. All in is a term, if you're new to Kickstarters, all in is a term where I want everything. But there's two different all ins here. So they have the Lockdown all in, which is $230, and that's right here. And that includes the Nemesis Lockdown, the stretch goals, and the original expansions from the first game. So the Medic, the Karna Morphs, the Void Seekers, and the Aftermath. This does not include any of the add-ons that I mentioned earlier. So this is a way that if you're like, you know what, I'm on a budget, but I really want to get some of those expansions because I want to get as many aliens and playable characters as possible. This is a great purchase for someone who's in that avenue for $230. But then they have the Nemesis gameplay all-in, and this is this final one right down here, and this is for $303. You can get the Nemesis core box, the Nemesis Lockdown, all stretch goals, Aftermath, Void Speakers, Karna Morphs, Untold Stories 1 and 2, as well as the Medic. So in terms of value, I will say this game is going to come off as very expensive. Is this a game that you should back? I think it is, and we'll get into that a little bit further as to why I think this is a good back. Before we dive too far, though, into why I think this is a good back, I wanted to talk about shipping, because the shipping can kind of throw off a lot of people, and you might not look at it until you're much later in the game. So we're gonna switch to the shipping information here. So they're having a thing called two-wave shipping. This is if someone wants to save money on shipping, you have one-wave shipping, which means all of your stuff will arrive in September 2021. But if you want to get Nemesis, the first game, first, and you're willing to pay more, you can opt in for two-wave shipping. So let's talk about each one individually, and then you can decide if this is worth it for you, because shipping is expensive. For USA customers, if you are ordering one-wave shipping, they break down here on what level you went into. We've already talked about Lockdown, Nemesis, the Lockdown all-in, or the Nemesis all-in. I'm going to reference the most expensive because that's what a lot of people are going in on. Right now, if you do the Nemesis gameplay all-in one wave, which means you'll get everything, you're all in at $30. But let's say you have two-wave shipping. You're like, you know what? I really want to get Nemesis. I want to play Nemesis to death before I get locked down. That way I have, and I don't think this is a bad idea in terms of making sense to me. I want to play Nemesis before I get locked down. So if you want to do that, you're going to be looking at $47, nearly $50. That's the cost of a board game and shipping alone to get your Nemesis first before you get your lockdown first. So please, before you back this game, consider this cost, because when you're looking at a $300 all-in cost, you're going to have to consider an additional $50, and that doesn't include any of the sweet add-ons that are going to come up in the Pledge Manager, any of this stuff. So when the Pledge Manager launches and they said, okay, what do you want? Well, you know what? I want that playmat, so let's play those playmats. So yeah, I get some terrain, and well, why not? I want the kings of Gotta Have Cats, and now you're sitting at a $500 Kickstarter. It's a car payment. It's huge. So consider that before you back the game. So let's talk about, is it worth it? Is Nemesis worth it? I think as a gameplay experience, I think Nemesis is well worth the cost of this game. Is it worth going all in on? I think that's more of a question of your budget and your personal financial situation. But know this, if you were to go to Amazon.com right now and look up Nemesis, which is available for sale, the core game with no stretch goals is $350. That's what it's selling right now on the market. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I get nervous with a game like this. Now, it's lucky we're adding more to the market. We're going to have a bigger supply, so there's going to be a little bit less demand. But there's obviously a precedent set that people will buy this game, just Nemesis by itself, for $350. So if you decide this is a game you're not quite sure in, and if you're kind of on the fence, there's a good chance that if you do not back it, you're going to pay a lot of money to get it in the secondary market. To add to that, when I was talking about this earlier, about how I talked to my local game store about getting this game, I asked them, you know, I know that there's coming a new shipment coming to, a Wave 2 shipment. Are you going to get any? He goes, well, we ordered 20 of them. I think we're getting 3. And I was pretty surprised about that. The amount of orders that these game stores are putting in and the amount that are being allocated to them by the distributor shows a real lack of inventory available into the retail market. And that's probably what's caused the Amazon market to spike. Because there's such a limited quantity, it's so much more expensive. So in terms of the cost to the Kickstarter price, to what the retail price has becoming, not the retail MSRP which you buy at a store, but what the secondary market would hold if you were to buy on eBay, Amazon, or Facebook Marketplace, it's pretty high. The costs in terms of the shipping, the all-in, I think there's a lot of value here. I personally am backing this game, and I'm backing it for both Nemesis and Lockdown. I want it all. I'm not so sure yet on the add-ons. I'm pretty sure I want all the expansions, but I am on the fence on Karna Morphs. Most likely, knowing me, I'm a completionist. I like to have it all. I don't like having an incomplete collection, because when I try to sell that collection, if I ever do, I like to be able to offer a complete, well taken care of collection. So for someone who is looking at Nemesis, if you're on the fence, I think there's value here, because even if you buy this game and you decide, you know what, I don't really want it later, one, before it ships, you could sell your pledge. There's plenty of people who'd buy your pledge for either what you paid or for a minor loss. Or once the game releases, and if it's a hit, you're most likely to be able to flip your game relatively easy. But you generally want to do that early on. But since Nemesis has been such a popular game, even after the Kickstarter has been shipped for a while, it's still driving a demand. I'm sure that this game would not be hard to move further down the line. So this was my analysis of Nemesis. If you enjoyed this review, this Kickstarter review, if it helped you decide if you're going to back it, let me know. I would love to know who's backing this game. Are you all in? Are you joining me onto this deep dive? Let me know. I hope to see you guys in the comments. Remember to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm and to subscribe to this content for more. Talk to you soon.